We're here today with Jeffrey Henning, designer of City Blocks.
Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is
Permeable. Capable of being permeated. Penetrable, especially having pores or openings that permit liquids or gases to pass through. So what do you got for this? Because I got nothing. This is a hard one.
Well, I had a couple ideas. So sometimes I think in game designs, the way producers go high concept when they're like pitching a movie in terms of other movies.
Yeah.
So they'll say, it's Die Hard in the White House, or it's Die Hard on a plane.
I love that.
So some of my other designs, I've thought like, oh, it's SimCity meets Sudoku, or it's Seven Wonders meets Flux. I like kind of weird
That's really cool.
juxtapositions. And so for Permeable, I immediately thought of Custom Heroes because I just played it. And so I thought it's Custom Heroes meets Civ A New Dawn. So do you know Custom Heroes?
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't played it, but I've seen it.
Yeah, so it's card crafting. So it's the first game I've ever played that's card crafting. So the cards are in sleeves.
Yep. You
put these transparent overlays over them to buff them. And so I was thinking, well, what if you reverse that? So you've got cards that have 3 powers on them. But they start where you have these overlays that only give you one of the 3 powers.
Okay.
So you can only see one of the 3 powers. And then there'll be other overlays. So there'll be 3 overlays that each show you 1. There'll be 2 overlays where you can see 2. And then you just take the overlay off if you get to the point where you have all 3 powers. Because what I didn't like about Custom Heroes was you buff this card and improve it by putting this transparent overlay on it, but then when you play it, it goes back in the deck and you lose it. So I want these to sort of be cards I control and improve over time. And have you played Sid Meier's Civ A New Dawn? It's their third. It's like sort of the third board game.
No, I haven't.
Sid Meier's in it. So unlike other Civ games, it's a race game.
Okay.
So rather than like you're basically trying to be the first to complete 3 of 6 objectives, and they're random from game to game. And they have a very streamlined tech tree. The game can play in an hour or 2, so it's definitely not sort of this epic game.
Yeah.
And the technologies have these cool abilities, but it's interesting because some of the technology's abilities you might lose when you upgrade. So like there's one level, maybe it's mathematics, where I hate to go to the next level because you lose this power. And so it's this interesting trade-off, but it gets hard to figure out because you've got these 20 cards for the tech. So I thought, well, if you have, basically you'd have, say, 5 cards with these 3 powers. So it's clear, oh, okay, which of these powers do I want to switch to at this point in the game, or which pair? And so then I was thinking about, if we're going back to Permeable and liquids and everything, I had this vision of geysers going off at different times and kind of powering this steampunk Rube Goldberg contraption.
Yeah.
So, if you've got geysers and hot water, you got to have steampunk. So, and the whole thing is powering some post-apocalyptic city-state, like the movie City of Ember. So you've got some underground city. You've got to feed your people, so you'll have powers around that. You've got to irradiate materials from the surface. You've got to purify water. So, and so you wouldn't have a lot of cards, but you'd have these, and one of them would probably be the thing that lets you kind of change that permeable layer where you're toggling your power.
So I haven't played. The only game with the clear overlays I played, I played Mystic Vale. But did you ever see the game years ago called Redakai?
No.
Redakai. It was almost like a Pokemon style, like kids like toy game that you get at like the toy store. But it was these cool overlay cards. And it was the first time I'd seen that, and I feel like the people that made it went on to make another like CCG game that was pretty popular, but I can't remember what it was called. But I was like amazed by it, and there's really been like 4 games that use them that have come out in the past, like, I don't know, 5 years. So I'm really surprised. I mean, I know they're costly, but I'm really surprised people don't use that more.
Yeah, well, I was picturing like, how would you make this game? You're going to have to like have like cutouts from cards? Is a card sturdy enough? Do you have to do cardboard? So I can see where you don't want to have a lot of the thing that's the overlay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I did I mocked one up for a prototype, and it made it for a little while into the game, and then we scrapped it. But what I did was I got those really thick, those like thick baseball card holders that like protect it for life. I got those and I just made stickers and put them on top. And then I just laid that on top of the card, and it worked. It was cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen a lot of the card crafting. That was just the first one that they were playing, and I started. It was a pretty simple game. It was kind of just a shedding ladder game, but it's definitely a neat idea in terms of ways of building out a deck. So I just thought we'd reverse it, given that we're trying to be permeable.
Yeah, exactly. You're putting holes. So you mentioned a Civ game, and I saw that one of your old games, or not old games, but I guess how Civscape, 2013.
So yeah, it's been a print and play since 2013. I just put it on Game Crafter, and that is when I said it's Seven Wonders meets Flux.
Yeah.
So, and it turns out people really don't. It's been interesting. So I sent it out to have reviewers, and people really didn't like this juxtaposition of those two things.
Oh, that's really funny.
It's a Civ game. It should be strategic and thoughtful, and it really is. I have a lot of friends who love Take That games, and it's a Take That game with a Civ theme, and so for some people they just couldn't get over that juxtaposition. It was just too random.
Oh man, so
it was random for them. So.
I know that Take That is one of those things where people just it can be hated. It can be absolutely hated. It can be, if somebody said something, Take That, the first instinct is like, oh no, like that's what you said. And it's one of those terms that like I wish we had a better term of like highly competitive or something along those lines.
Well, it is a tough concept because it is, Take That, but yet you look at a game like Uno with, the draw two.
Yeah, I mean, that's the exact comparison. If someone says, oh, your game's, whatever, Take That game, it's like, oh, draw four. It's not draw four.
Right.
But the other thing that I saw that was really interesting about it is I love the, it's got the player count and then the time on it. And it's 2 to 5 players, 8 to 40 minutes, which is the widest range and the most specific range I've seen in a long time.
So I've played it over 250 times because it's a short card game. So that was like actually like based sort of on like,
yeah,
data
experience. Yeah. I assume that it's shorter with less players.
It is shorter with less players.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can actually play it. And we have there's 10 cities in the box, so you can play it with 10 people. I really wouldn't recommend that, but we did a couple times to see how broken it was.
That's a big thing I've been doing lately is fine tuning my player count, whether I'm designing or publishing. And it's just like if the game is optimal with only 2, I'm like, all right, well, let's just leave it at 2. And if it's optimal with only 4. It's like, oh, that's tough, but let's just leave it at 4. So I've been trying to fine tune and looking at, on the publishing side, 1 player only, 2 player only, and 2 to 4 player only. And just really trying to like fine tune those because player counts can get out of control. Like you can say, oh, it plays to 8, but it's terrible at 6 through 8. But some people will throw that on the box just because it can.
Yeah, well, I really admire you for doing that. It's funny because I was just arguing with Hyperbole Games, Grant Rodiak on Twitter. Yeah. He's really active on Twitter, really engaging. And he has a game, I think it's called Dungeon Time Fun. It's in a playtest prototype stage. And he's like, it's only for 4 people. And I'm like, really? And he's like, it's only for 4 people. And the problem is it's hard. Our game nights are pretty variable, so it's hard to know how many players you're going to get. Yeah. So saying it's only for 4, it's like just hard to get to the table.
But if you have 4, it's like, oh my god, I know what we're playing.
Right, and it is funny because even though there are games that have the wide range, you know that you're not going to play it like that. Like I forgot that Seven Wonders actually says 2 people can play it.
Yeah.
And I have played it with 2 players. I would never do that. It's not a good 2-player game. But there are certain games where we're like, Age of Empires 3 is a great game that I only will play with 5 or 6 people. So people, so the community, and even the fact that Board Game Geek lets you vote on what's the ideal player count,
Yep.
for these games, and I'll look at that for a new game. So
They voted 3 on Civscape.
oh, did they?
Yeah.
That makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah, we have a bunch of games that are 2 to 3 players, and I'm just like, let's just eliminate 3, because it's such that's the hardest one to get out of 2 and 3. It's hard to get 3 people together, because if you have a large group, it's usually more than 3. If you're a married couple and have people over, it's usually more than one person. So a lot of times with that, I'm just like, let's just make it 2 and not even worry about that 3 and let people discover that on their own.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how stable your game group is, and
if they're willing to break into groups and things like that.
Yeah. I run a game group that's through a local comic book store, Darkside Comics, down here in Sarasota, and so it's open. And so one night we might have 4 people, and this Tuesday night we had 10, and so it's just tough to plan. Which so then we kind of like have it's a meta game. This game plays 4. Can we get 4 people interested in it? No. Okay.
Moving on.
Yep.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, this was fun, and I want to let everyone know how they can let everyone know how they can get in touch with you, and we will chat again.
Yeah. So I just created a new Twitter account just for board game stuff. So it's J. Allen Henning, Jalan Henning.
And I don't know that one, so I'm going to.
My real Twitter is J Henning, which is mainly market research stuff, which is the day job. So the market researchers don't want to read about board games, and the board gamers don't want to read about market research. So I decided to do J Allen Henning as a separate one, which is also the name on City Blocks, the game that Nestor Games published by me. That
is one of the funny things about board gaming is like you'll see a lot of like board gamers or designers or whatever tweet, and they'll be like, sorry, this isn't about board games, but, and then tweet it. And I'm like,
yep.
We should be able to blend that better.
Yeah, but it's like on Twitter, I want to read, like I have a politics Twitter, I have a sports Twitter, I have a board game Twitter. So I have the different lists. And if I'm in the mood, and it's really weird when they sort of mix. And there are people who do that. Certainly since 2016, politics is in every thread.
That's true.
But usually if I'm in the mindset of I just want to think about this.
That's good, yeah. All right, cool. Well, we will chat again.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.